The next form of looping in Python. So when we introduced looping, we had said there are two types of loops that we generally use in a program. One is a condition-based loop, which is the example of while loop that we saw in the previous videos. The second was the looping based on the number of times we have to repeat a certain part of the program. So if we know that we repeat a program 10 times or 20 times, we can use for loop where we know the count beforehand, that then how many times do we want to repeat a certain set of instructions. So let's see how Python handles for loop. So the syntax is like this. So you have, let me write it separately. So you have the for keyword. So this is a keyword which is to signify beginning of the for loop, followed by a space. Then you mention a variable. Now this variable need not be instantiated before. It is a variable local for the for loop only. So this variable is valid as long as the for loop is being used. Then the in keyword. So this is a keyword. This is a keyword. Now after in, what is expected in Python is any list of numbers. Now list as a definition in Python is different. Lists is something else. It's a different data type by itself. Any set or data set which can be iterated over. That is, you can loop through. That means if I give, let's say, for example, an array can be looped through because array has different number of elements, element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4. So any data type which can be iterated over can be passed here. Okay, so for now, just to keep it simple, because we have not seen all the data types that are available in Python, we'll use a simple function called as range. Okay, and we'll pass a number to it. Let's say 4. Now what does a range do? Range basically takes three uh, one variable, optionally three variables. Now what is the condition? When I say one variable, it creates numbers. Now when I say range 4, it creates numbers 0, 1, 2, 3 as as a iteration. That is, if I say range 4 and colon, it creates, let's, something like an array of numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, and every time the for loop starts, one number is given to this variable, right? So now I am starting here. I say, let's say I go now to indicate what is a part of the for loop. We know what we use in Python. We use a tab space. So I say print variable. So what are we doing here? We are printing this variable. Now what is the value of variable? It is picked from whatever is given here. Now what we have given here is the function range. Range in turn will return you 0, 1, 2, 3. Each of them is returned as is assigned to the variable var every time it enters the for loop. So first time it comes to the for loop, 0 gets assigned to var. Second time it enters for loop, 1 gets assigned to var. Third time it enters for loop, 2 gets assigned to var. Third time it enters for loop, 3 get assigned to var. So each time it comes into the for loop, one of these is given one after the other to this variable, whatever we pass here. So this is like a set of numbers or an array of numbers or a list of numbers. You can, as of now, call it like that. Uh, Little more details of this we will get into when we understand lists as a data structure. Right. So now range can also be used in a different fashion. Range can be passed three different, two or three numbers also. So if I say range uh, s- 0 to 4, or let's say 2 to 6, it means I'm starting from the number 2 and ending at number 5. Okay, so 6 is not included. 2, 3, 4, 5. Only those are. So this will return me as 2, 3, 4, and 5. These four numbers get returned as a value. So if I use range 2 comma 6 here, what will happen is each time it enters for loop, first time it 2 is given to var, second time 3 is given to var, third time 4 is given to var, fifth time, fourth time 5 is given to var. Fine. So that is the second way of using range. So let us experiment with these two, then we'll talk about the third way of using range. So let me run this. Let me dock it again and run, because that's the easier way of seeing the output. Right. So fine. So let me run this now. I'll run the for one. So it is for I in range 4. I'm executing this. So you can see it is printing 0, printing 1, printing 2, and printing 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3 are being printed one after the other. So that becomes as we said, range gives numbers as a list, creates numbers as a list, and each of them gets assigned to the variable I one after the other. So first time it enters for loop, 0 becomes the value of I. Second time it enters for loop, 1 becomes the value of I. Third time it enters for loop, 2 becomes the value of I. Fourth time, 3 becomes the value of I. So if I pass something else like 2 comma 6, so now what happens now? If I run this code, you will see first time it enters it becomes 2, second time it becomes 3, third time it becomes 4, fourth time it becomes 5. So 6 is not included in the range. So starting number is 2, ending number is the last number minus 1. So if I say 2 comma 8, it becomes 2 to 7. Alright, so that is how range works. Now you can also pass a third number here by now here by default increment is by one count. So 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to increase by more, let's say increase by 2. So I can increase by two numbers. So I can increase by two numbers. Fine. So you can see it is 2, 4, 6. So it gets incremented by twice. So 2 plus 2, 4, 4 plus 2, 6. 6 plus 2 is 8 because 8 is not included. 8 does not come into picture here. So it stops at 6. 6 is 2 would have been 8, but this last number is not part of the uh, range and a list of numbers to be generated. So it stops at 6. So this is the starting count, this is the ending count, this is the increment count. So if you want variation like this, you can use it. If you simply pass a single number, it only generates number starting from default from 0, and default increment is 1. Okay, so as of now, for the for loop, we'll stick to using this format of numbers. Other formats are possible, which we will explore once we have learned all the data structures of Python. So when we look at all the other types of data structures available in Python, then we'll explore different things that we can pass to the for loop here. But remember, anything that can be that is a set of numbers or a list of numbers, or it generally called as an iterator in technically speaking, but because we have not covered that in detail what an iterator is, so don't worry if you don't get that point. Just keep in mind that you can pass anything that creates a set of numbers which can be looped over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a set of 5 numbers, so I can loop over it one after the other. Fine. So similarly, you can also use a string. Now, if I say for var in hello, hello has 5 different characters. So I can have first character, second character, third character, fourth character, fifth character. So this can also be split into 5 different characters. So this can also be looped over using a for loop. So I say for var in hello, which means first time I come into the for loop, h gets assigned to the variable. Second time E gets assigned, third time L gets assigned, fourth time again L gets assigned, fifth time O gets assigned. So if I run it now, you can see it is HELLO. Okay, so maybe we can do a single step once to see how it works. So let me go one step at a time. So it's starting the for loop now. So let's go to the variable explorer. So where values you can see is H. Need to go steps again. It's, now it comes to this. You can see the where value is E. So each time it comes into the value, it comes into the for loop, the value of var changes, right? Var value is L, so on and so forth. So that will keep printing like that, right? So for now, we will be using either a string or a range for the for loop till we don't come across a little more other data types which are possible to be fitted into the for loop, which we will explore a little later. But as of now, for we can use these two data types or these two types of for loop. Right? Now let's write a small program using this, the range function. Say I want to write a program to print the first 10 even numbers. So that means 0 till you will generally the first 10 even numbers starting from 0, assuming 0 is an even number. you'll end at 20, the 10 even numbers. So because you want to print 20 also, you might have the range value starting from 0, ending at 21. Each time you can have a comparison of I modulus 2, because each time I come into this, I will assign the value of number to I, compare if it's equal to 0 and print I. One way of doing it. Okay, so you can see the print value here. Print is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, starting from 0, ending at 20. Right? Now you can also approach the same thing in a different fashion. Instead of having an if condition here, I can use the range function and say increment by 2. Okay, that also gives me the exactly same answer. You can see. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. Fine. Uh, till then. So either I can use the range with increment of 2, or I can use the if condition with modulus of 2. Obviously the range function is better because it's smaller. It doesn't need extra condition check to do. Alright. Similarly, let me remove this and put it. So please remember the tab space after the colon operator. You have a tab space to indicate what is part of the for loop. So whatever comes after this tab space is part of the for loop. If I put anything behind this tab space, it automatically becomes outside the for loop. So if I say print something here, print end of program. So now this is not part of the for loop. So it will only print that once. End of program is printed only once, not every time, because this is not inside the for loop. But if you put this inside the for loop within the tab space, it's going to print end of program every time it comes into the for loop. Fine. So remember the tab space part remains the same. Indentation part remains the same for loop, just like if condition or while loop, the indentation concept is same for loop also. Let's take another small example just to clear the concepts through. Write a program to take 10 numbers as input from user and find its average. So we know that we need 10 numbers as input. So we'll start for I in the range 0 to 10, because we want to iterate through the for loop 10 times. So starting from 0, ending at 9, that becomes 10 different loops, 10 different iterations of the loop. Right? So each time we come inside, we take an integer as input, where int input enter the ith number, which is informing the user what is the count of number is entering. Take the input where add it to a variable called as total, which has been initialized to 0 here. So when we exit the for loop, the value of total is sum of all the numbers that has been entered, and then find the average is equal to total divided by 10, because 10 numbers is what we entered. Simple enough. Fine. So I'll run it. You can see the enter the 0 number. I'll say 1 number, 2 number, 3 number, 4 number. Anything you want you can enter there, and then it prints the average of numbers is 5.5, which is fair enough for the numbers that we entered. Average is 5.5. Fine. So that's how you can again see these two were inside the for loop, so they were executed 10 times, these two statements, and these two were outside the for loop, were executed only once as part of the program. Right, so that's how the basic for loop works. I hope the concept is clear. We'll execute a few more programs on this to get it further clarified. Right? Thank you.